The Dwarf Project, 1967. In 1967, the Cold War was at its peak. Governments raced not just for weapons, but for control over the human mind. Most people have never heard of the Dwarf Project. That's not an accident. Officially, it never existed. But buried beneath declassified memos, redacted budgets, and missing personnel records is a name that appears again and again, always crossed out, always dismissed as a clerical error. Project Dwarf. According to the fragments that remain, the project did not study weapons, satellites, or nuclear fallout. It studied perception. The original goal was simple: determine whether the human brain could be trained to ignore the impossible. Not disbelieve it, not question it, ignore it completely. Researchers believed that if something appeared too small, too strange, or too illogical to fit expectations, the brain would discard it automatically. They called this effect cognitive minimization. In other words, if something didn't look like a threat, people wouldn't see it at all. The test subjects were military volunteers, psychologists, and later, civilians who were never told they were part of an experiment. The name, Dwarf Project, wasn't about people. At least, that's what the paperwork claimed. The first phase involved sensory distortion. Subjects were placed in controlled environments where objects appeared slightly smaller than normal. Doors, furniture, other people. At first, subjects noticed. Then something changed. After repeated exposure, the brain stopped correcting the image. Participants began to accept the distortion as normal. When asked to describe what they saw, their answers became vague. "It's there," they'd say. "I know it's there, but I can't explain it." Phase 2 escalated. Human figures were introduced, always smaller than expected. Never large enough to trigger fear. Never clear enough to focus on. Observers would glance directly at them, then look away, unsettled but unable to explain why. Heart rates spiked. Memory faltered. Some subjects complained of headaches and a feeling they described as being watched from below. That phrase appears in 3 separate reports. By late 1967, something went wrong. Security logs show increased movement during overnight hours. Footage from internal cameras was corrupted, but not erased. Instead, it showed brief distortions near the floor. Shadows moving against the direction of light. Technicians began reporting the same problem. They would hear footsteps, but only when they weren't looking. One psychologist assigned to the project resigned abruptly. In her exit interview, she said, "We didn't make people stop seeing them. We taught them how." After that, the files become fragmented. But here's the part that still disturbs historians. Several staff members involved in Project Dwarf were later reassigned to urban planning, architecture, and transportation departments. Others moved into media and advertising, fields that shape how humans look, and more importantly, what they overlook. There are rumors, never confirmed, that the project discovered something already present. Not created, not summoned, something that existed in the blind spots of human perception. Small, observant, adaptive. The theory goes like this: once humans learned to ignore it, it learned to move freely. In 1971, Project Dwarf was officially terminated. No closure report exists. No final results were published. Just one sentence, stamped classified, repeated in 3 separate documents: visibility threshold permanently compromised. To this day, former participants report the same recurring experience. A sensation of something nearby. A movement just below eye level. The certainty that if they look directly at it, it won't be there, not because it moved, but because their mind refuses to let it exist. And that may have been the project's final conclusion. You don't need to hide something forever. You only need to teach people how not to see it.